Hey, so we get a lot of questions about working with contractors. As real estate investors, it's something we're often doing. All of us are doing, whether it's small jobs or big jobs over one property or multiple properties. As years go on, you're definitely going to encounter some work with contractors, and a good contractor is like essential on any real estate investor's team. So the way we do it specifically is there's a number of things to consider. First is you always want to look for references when you're finding a contractor. Look at reviews and ideally ask for references, especially if you're going cold and it's a decent sized job. If you're getting someone to replace like a faulty tap for a hose outside, maybe not so much, but at any decent sized job, referrals would be important. So referrals are key. If you have someone that's had a good experience with the contractor, that would be key, that would be first. And then even when we're dealing with someone that's been referred, it would be looking for references from other jobs and their reviews. And then don't be afraid to call those references. I've acted myself personally as a reference for multiple contractors. They've even come to some of our homes and looked at the work that those contractors have done because people want to be sure of the quality of work. So that's number one. Do your due diligence early and don't be shy about it. Ask for the reviews, ask for the references, and if the person balks at giving them to you, it's a little bit of a warning sign, especially when real estate gets really hot. There's a lot of work that needs to be done because more and more people are doing things with their properties, or they're doing landscaping jobs, whatever it is. And there's going to be all these contractors that they feel like it's easy money because there's a demand for labor, and they come out of the woodworks and they're doing all sorts of jobs. So they won't have that past track record. It's something that you want to look at. So that's the first thing that we always look at that you want to be careful of. The second thing is that when you're getting your price quote, it's very important to get the details in writing. This is so key. I can't tell you how many quotes I've seen they will take a $100,000 job and break it into 7 or 8 line items. And then those 7 or 8 line items have a price total. Well, there's so many variables to that. Like what kind of material are we using? How long is the job gonna take? What about all these little things that come up? It's when I see a quote like that, I have no confidence that the job is going to be done on time or on budget. Absolutely zero. And when we look at custom home building, we just had some builders on the podcast the other day, 2 custom home builders, they do subdivisions as well. They were talking about the custom home building sector, and they say the same type of thing happens with custom homes, where people will give a certain project scope or a certain budget, but there's no penalties or there's no blowback on them at all if the project goes over budget or over timelines. So that's the other thing you want to be aware of. You want a very detailed quote. Often what a good contractor will do is they'll give you a detailed quote with all the steps of the process, whether it's demolition and the removal of the debris and if it's tile work or flooring or kitchen or whatever it is, it's all broken down. And then what they'll say is that you're able to buy a tile, for example, in this price range. So you can go to their supplier and you buy a tile priced from whatever, $250 to $350 a foot, or $250 to $3 a foot. So you know the price and the quality of material they're using. And if you want a nicer tile, then you just pay the extra difference. And if you get something that's cheaper, you get something on sale or whatever, you maybe can get some cost savings there. But it's all done up front and it's very, very clear. So that's the second thing, is around the quote. That's the most important thing. A good contractor is going to give you a good detailed quote. The third thing is around payments. There's no lump sum payments needed, okay? If someone's going to do work for you and they're coming to you and they're saying, hey, please pay me everything up front, no, don't do that. That's a huge warning sign, okay? Usually the payments are done in multiple chunks depending on the size of the job. So there is some sort of deposit up front, and then there'll be milestones throughout the job where you're required to pay an additional amount. And that's no problem. And there's always an amount outstanding until the job is 100% complete. Not 95%, not 98%, until it's 100% complete is when the contractor gets the final payment. Okay, if anyone's coming to you saying, hey, 50% up front and 50% halfway through the job because I have to pay for material and things like that, it doesn't work that way. You do not need to agree to that. There's other contractors that will have a more steady and realistic payment schedule that you can use. Okay, so don't get ripped off that's how a lot of people get ripped off by a contractor. They give them money, the person doesn't show up, or they give them money too soon and they don't come back to finish the job, whatever the case may be. Okay, now around all these things that I just spoke about, the references, the reviews, the quote, the payment, around that stuff, that can change as your relationship with the contractor grows. So for example, I have contractors now that They don't require any deposit from us. They know we're going to pay. It's no problem for them. So we don't give the money up front. Or I'm not interested in looking for reviews. I trust them, so I don't have to go review the specific things that they've done. So as your relationship with one contractor grows, though these things can obviously change, but this is the stuff that we're looking for early on. Now, there's something else that we got to consider as investors, or I guess on the customer side of the contractor. During these processes, things are going to come up. Okay, a job is never going to go perfectly. There's going to be issues. There's going to be some delays. I mean, during the pandemic era, there was all sorts of material delays and it wasn't their fault. So you have to be understanding that way as well. So there's realistic delays and unrealistic ones, but you got to understand that not everything is always going to go according to plan. That's normal. So as a customer, personally, Tom and I have found helpful is when we have that understanding with them and we're willing to work with them, saying, hey, no problem, I get it. You know, we're not freaking out about every little thing. We have to have realistic expectations. I know myself, anytime I've done a project, as soon as we open up the wall, if it requires opening a wall, nothing ever goes according to plan. There's always some surprises. So we got to understand and respect their process as well. Okay, last couple of things we have to be aware of on that note. As the customer, we don't want to be a bottleneck. Okay, that's a big thing for us. So when the contractor, maybe sometimes it's not fair, but when the contractor's like, hey, can I meet you here at this time? I try to move mountains to get myself or someone else there that can handle whatever they need to be done. And the reason for that is because I know they're on a schedule, they might be handling multiple jobs, and I don't want to be the bottleneck in any way. When it comes to material selections, other decisions about the job, when it's our time to give them the information they need, we need to be on it. So that's what we want to make sure of. We're not the bottleneck. If there's going to be a bottleneck, we want it to be on them. So there can never be any communication that's saying, hey, well, we came to you for something and you made us wait for a week. The contractor then they have to keep themselves or their guys busy. So they're now on to another job before they can circle back to yours. So don't be a bottleneck. And the last thing is always pay them on time. If you've agreed, just like if they've agreed to a contractor, if they've agreed to a contract with you, you've agreed to a contract with them. If you owe them money, pay them on time. That's how you're going to develop a relationship with these contractors. We grew up in a household with our dad had a drywall company. We remember him stressing in the evenings, making phone calls, trying to make arrangements to collect money from people from jobs that he did, and the work was done. And he always had to chase people. And he told us when we were young, he's like, that's one thing that I don't wish upon you guys, that you have to do this type of role in any job or business that you have. So it always stuck out to us. And I think because of that, any contractor that we work with, once they know us, once we have a relationship with them, they know that they're never going to have to chase us for money. It doesn't work like that. They've held up their end of the bargain. If they've done good work and the job is complete, we pay them in a timely manner. So they don't have to worry about chasing us for money. And we know that helps strengthen our relationship in the future when we do other jobs. So then, they'll start the jobs. We'll be overseas sometimes and they'll do work for us. They're like, don't worry guys, I know you're good. You'll handle it when you get back. And I'm like, perfect. Thanks so much for handling that for me. So that relationship goes a long, long way. And as on the customer side of working with contractors, I feel like that's our responsibility to treat them well. And that's how together we can form a good relationship and then we can work together. It helps them, grows their business, makes them busier, gives them income, and it helps us as investors. It helps them to solidify and grow our business as an investment business and grow the relationship with us. And sometimes they'll handle stuff for us when really maybe it wouldn't be at the top of the list for some other people. And we appreciate that. And that's why we're loyal to them. And that loyalty goes both ways. So there's like a snapshot of kind of the main points of how we work with contractors. And it's been successful for us so far. I'm sure everyone's got their own little tips and tactics that they use. This is how we do things. It's worked out, and I hope there was something there for you.